All right, let's get our heading on, name, number, date, first and last in cursive. That way, if this paper rips out of your folder, you know who to return it to. Make sure you are writing down the date you are actually working on the notes, not necessarily the date I'm writing. And our subject is math. All right, so here we're looking at our benchmark fraction. So our first question, we're looking at 9/16, and we just want to say, is it closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? Well, 1/2 to be equivalent to 16. Well, half of 16 is 8. So 8/16 is 1/2. 1 whole would be, with the denominator of 16, would be the whole thing filled in. And then, of course, close to 0 would be something like 1/16. So we could say something like that if we want to. Similar to, they're not equal. Or, 2/16 along that line. Well, which one of these is 9/16 closest to? It looks like it's closest to 8/16. 9/16 is close to 8/16. Well, if it's close to 8/16, it is closer to 1/2. 9/16 is closer to 1/2, and it asks us to explain. That's where the because comes in, because 9/16 is close to 8/16. You found that equivalent fraction, and it was easier to see what it was close to. Now we're going to do the same thing with 16/18. Well, let's see. 1/2 would be an equivalent fraction. The denominator of 18 would be 9/18, because 9 is half of 18. 1 whole would be 18 pieces, and all 18 filled in. And 0 would be similar to 1/18. This would be approximate. That's what that has to do with. Let's see. 6/18. 7 away from this, but only 2 away from this. So it looks like it's closer to 18/18. 16/18 is close to 18/18. So that means it is closer to 1. 16/18 is closer to 1 because, this is our explain part, 16/18 is close to 18/18, and 18/18 is 1 whole thing filled in. So we're going to use benchmark fractions to help us out. We're not going to really do multiplying or anything like that. We want to find our benchmark fraction for 1/2, the denominator of 10. Well, half of 10 is 5. We're going to also find our equivalent one with the denominator of 8. Half of 8 is 4. So 4/10, that is less than 5/10, because 4 is less than 5. And here, 5/8 would be what to 4/8? Well, that is greater than. If this is less than a half and this is greater than a half, that means 4/10 is less than 5/8. If this is smaller than a half and this is greater than a half, then the smaller than a half has to be less than the greater than a half. Because we're comparing it to that benchmark fraction. So here we look at half. Half of 14 is 7. Half of 22 is 11. Oh, wait a second. If this is equal to half, and this is equal to half, then that means they're equal to each other. They're both halves. They're both equal to our benchmark fraction, so 7/14 is equivalent to 11/22. It's just these pieces are much, much smaller. Here, let's look at our benchmark fractions. So here we're looking at half of 20, which is 10. We're looking at half of 18, which is 9. So we have 12/20. What is that compared to 10/20? That means it's greater. So 12/20 is greater than half. It's larger than half. 9/18 compared to 9/18 is equal. This is greater than a half. This is exactly a half. Well, if this is greater than a half, it has to be greater than this half, since they're equal. The half is equivalent to this. This is greater than this, so it has to be greater than this. This is using our logic, looking for patterns and coming to conclusions using those mathematical practices. So 12/20 is greater than 9/18. Right, so we're going to do some more comparing fractions using our benchmark fractions, using that logic and understanding that reasoning with fractions. All right, thank you for joining me.